Okay, the time is now 6 o'clock, and I will call the meeting to order. Rachel, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Burkhart?
Here.
Commissioner Eichmann?
Here.
Commissioner Werner?
Here.
Vice Chair Faina?
Here.
Chair Keith?
Here. Commissioner Werner, will you lead us in the salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rachel, can we have the secretary announcement?
Welcome to the City of Santa Clarita Planning Commission's regular meeting. I would like to offer some information to help you understand how you can participate this evening. Speaker cards and comment cards are available on the back table, along with copies of the agenda listing the items the Commission will consider tonight. Members of the public have two opportunities to address the Commission, either during the specific agenda item or, if your topic is not listed on the agenda, during public participation. Each person speaking must complete a speaker card. Please place your card up here in the tray prior to the item being discussed. Speaker cards will not be accepted once the public comment begins on an item. Chair Keith will call speakers up in groups of 3 when he announces your name. Please be prepared to approach the podium to address the Commission in the order you are called. Applicants have up to a total of 15 minutes to make their presentation. Each individual speaker will be given 3 minutes to make his or her comments. When your allotted time has expired, a bell will ring. Individuals not wishing to speak may submit written comment cards. As a courtesy, please silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've all had the opportunity to review the minutes from the March 17th, it's been a while, 2026 meeting. If there aren't any changes, I will take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. Perfect. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The item before us tonight is Master Case 21036, and Erica Iverson, Senior Planner, will be presenting this project to us tonight. Erica?
Thank you, Chair Keith. Good evening, members of the Commission. I'm Erica Iverson, Senior Planner in the City's Planning Division, presenting Master Case 21036, a request for a mixed-use development consisting of a hotel, assisted living facility, and age-qualified condominiums in the community of Canyon Country. We'll start this evening with a look at the vicinity and zoning maps. The site's approximately 28 acres. It's a hillside property located at the northwest corner of Golden Valley Road and Sierra Highway. It's outlined here in yellow. The site's currently improved with a single-family home, and it's located in our mixed-use neighborhood, or MXN zone. Surrounding properties to the north and east are within the Urban Residential 3, or UR3. This is a multifamily residential zone, and the properties are improved with single-family condo uses. The property immediately east across Sierra Highway is within the CC zone and improved with a commercial shopping center. The properties to the south across Golden Valley Road are zoned Urban Residential 2. This is a single-family residential zone. These properties are currently vacant of structures, but have been partially disturbed over the years by activities associated with oil well operations. And lastly, properties to the west are within the MXN and UR4 zone. This is, again, a multifamily residential zone, with the properties immediately adjacent being utilized for overhead transmission lines, and then residential condominium and Golden Valley High School beyond. The project site is also within our planned development, or PD overlay zone. The PD overlay zone extends to properties both east and west of the site, as shown here in green. The PD overlay is intended to provide additional discretion for vacant or underutilized parcels within the city, and development within the PD overlay does require approval of a conditional use permit. This is a look at the project proposal, and the site plan is here on the right-hand side. The applicant has requested approvals for a 4-lot subdivision to permit the construction of a mixed-use development that would include a 4-story hotel, a 4-story assisted living facility, and age-qualified condominiums. The development is accessed from a single access on Golden Valley Road. It will allow for a right turn and left turn from Golden Valley Road into the project site, but will limit exiting vehicles to a right turn only onto Golden Valley Road. The MXN zone requires both a residential and a commercial component and sets a minimum and maximum range for both, as shown in the table here. A minor use permit is required if the minimum thresholds are not met. And in this case, a minor use permit is required because the minimum number of residential units is not being met. Our code considers condos as residential density and the assisted living as meeting the commercial floor area that's required. The state, however, considers them both to be housing. The project is considered a hillside development with an average cross slope over 25%. The project site descends from Golden Valley Road in a northward direction toward the Rainbow Glen community at the base of the slope. I'm going to highlight each component of the project and then we'll look at them further on the following slides. So the hotel is situated at the intersection of Golden Valley Road and sits really at similar grade elevation to the intersection. The site begins to descend in this direction, with the assisted living facility being located downslope and central in the site. And then the age-qualified condominiums are located further downslope, and these will be situated at similar grade elevation to the adjacent Valle d'Oro residential condos. And then at the base of the slope where the site flattens out, there will be an underground detention basin. This is a closer look at the hotel site plan. The hotel is 4 stories. It offers 60 rooms. There's a restaurant and retail component on the ground floor. I'll point out that the retail component is oriented toward the intersection of Golden Valley and Sierra Highway. The hotel also offers a banquet room that's located on the 4th floor, and then parking is provided in a surface level parking lot. There's also a subterranean parking level that's accessed here that sits beneath the surface parking. As shown in the table here, the hotel and its ancillary uses would require 117 parking spaces. They provide a total of 143. Stepping down the slope is the 4-story assisted living facility with 151 rooms. Resident amenities include a dining room, or I should say a common area dining room, a common lobby, multi-purpose rooms, suites for physician, dental, and salon services, rooms for reading or playing cards, shared kitchens, and laundry facilities. In addition, there are outdoor gathering spaces, particularly outside the lobby and dining room, our courtyards designed with seating. Outside the lobby and entrance is a water feature that can be accessed from these courtyards. And at the rear of the hotel is a landscaped common area courtyard that will be programmed for passive recreation. As shown in the table here, the required parking for the assisted living is 76 spaces and 92 are provided. The age-qualified units are 2-story condominiums designed as duplex, triplex, and quadplexes. Each of these will have a 2-car garage. There is common outdoor space provided throughout the project. The most notable is this centralized courtyard, again, that will be landscaped and programmed for that passive recreation. There's a community garden with raised planter boxes. There's landscape pedestrian paths throughout the project. And then each unit will have a patio on the ground floor that faces that common walkway. Parking, again, is provided for each unit in a 2-car garage. And then there is also guest parking in surface stalls throughout the development. There's no parking reduction due to the age-qualified units. These units are parking at the same ratio that any single-family condo would park at in the city. And lastly, at the base of the project site is an underground detention basin. Landscaping and a decomposed granite pathway will be installed on top. The plant palette here would be composed of a low water use mix of grasses and wildflowers that would blend with the existing vegetation. That walking path will then extend beyond into the northern portion of the project site around 2 existing oak trees that are there. Those oak trees will remain in place and the natural vegetation around will remain as is. In these next few slides, we will look at the proposed architecture. This is a view of the hotel, and as you can see, the applicant has proposed a rustic Californian style, which is called for in our community character and design guidelines for the Canyon Country community. You can see use of natural stone, siding, exposed rafter tails, wood frame windows. As I had mentioned, the hotel is 4 stories. It's a maximum height of 50 feet, which is permitted in the MXN zone. But you can see in the elevation here, this is the retail component that's nearest the street, is designed at 1 story, and then that building steps up in height as you move further from the street. This is a rendering of the assisted living facility, also 4 stories and 50 feet in height. There are similar elements that are utilized for the assisted living. It also introduces an accent color distinguishing it from the hotel. And this, again, because it's 4 stories, it is situated downslope. And so it's below the elevation of the roadways. So the height's not going to be visible in the same way, and we'll look at that closer in a moment. This is a view of the age-qualified units. They utilize horizontal and shingle siding. You can also see exposed trim along the roof lines here. This particular point of view is from the east property line from the adjacent Valle de Oro development. The applicant has designed this as an open rail fencing rather than a block wall, which we would typically require, but that was based on feedback the applicant received from the adjacent property. The next couple of slides are photo simulations, so these are taken from street view. This shot is on Sierra Highway, looking north toward the project site at Golden Valley Road. We can again see the retail component at the corner here, that 1-story element, and then it steps up in height, moving back from the street. This view also on Sierra Highway, north of the hotel, looking back south at the intersection. We can see the retail component, the hotel, and here is where we see the top roof line of the assisted living facility, that facility sitting below street elevation. So looking at some of the site development components, as we discussed, this is a hillside property with an average cross slope over 25% and requires a hillside development review. The grading plan requires 360,000 cubic yards of cut and fill that will balance on site, so there won't be any import or export of dirt. In addition, as we looked at previously, there are 2 existing oak trees on the site. Those will remain in place. Looking at some of the roadway improvements that will be required for the project, based on the traffic analysis that was prepared, the project is going to require installation of a right turn lane. So it will actually be a new turnout, right-hand turn lane into the project site. The project will also provide a new bus stop within that right-hand turn lane. There is an existing 22-foot wide Class 1 trail along the project frontage that's going to be maintained as well. And then because the project only allows a right turn out onto Golden Valley, the project will modify the intersection at Robert C. Lee Parkway to accommodate a U-turn for any vehicles needing to travel eastbound on Golden Valley Road. This is a summary of the entitlement request for the project. Under our municipal code, the project comes before the Planning Commission for consideration because the requests for the tentative map, hillside development review, and conditional use permit do require a determination by the Planning Commission. We've discussed state legislation that surrounds housing developments on recent proposals that have come before the Planning Commission. And since passing of Senate Bill 330, the city cannot deny a housing project based on subjective criteria. So projects have to be evaluated for compliance with our objective standards. And in this particular case, the hotel component is not considered housing under the state law, but the balance of the project is. The project as a whole was evaluated for conformance with the current objective the current objective standards in our municipal code, and it does meet our requirements. Each component meets the standards for setbacks, parking, height, etc. And our code does permit the proposed uses as well as the reduced residential density through the requested entitlements. In addition, the project architecture meets the design criteria of our community character design guidelines for Canyon Country. This proposal is a project under CEQA. An initial study was prepared to determine the potential impacts and to mitigate any impacts to a less than significant level. The city retained Envicom to assist with the environmental review and preparation of the initial study, as well as a mitigated negative declaration, or MND. The MND was made available for a 30-day public review and was posted for review with the state, county, and city. All potentially affected environmental areas have been identified, analyzed, and mitigated to a less than significant level. Agency comment letters were received from 5 responsible agencies, and those letters have been provided to the commissioners prior to the start of the hearing. Letters from FEMA and LA County Sanitation District are informational in nature. There's a letter from Caltrans that incorrectly states there's a VMT impact, as the project analysis does show there is not an impact. I will note in Appendix I, the VMT analysis, Table B does have a typo. It should say 85,035 total employment. It says 83,000. I'll note it doesn't actually change the analysis. The employment, the number 66, is consistent throughout that document. But Caltrans does go on to offer additional comments regarding heavy construction vehicles on their highways and potential traffic control related to construction vehicles. And I would note that the applicant would be required to secure any necessary permits to address construction-related encroachments on the state highway system. There's a letter from LA County Sheriff noting additional population resulting in additional law enforcement services. The MND does provide analysis for this, and the applicant is required to pay impact fees at the time that they would secure building permits. In addition, the city does review its contract with the Sheriff Department annually and make adjustments accordingly. The letter from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, or CDFW, does make recommendations for additional mitigation measures. The bioanalysis did address special status species and plants. It did conduct site-specific surveys to support the conclusions in the MND, and current mitigation measures will require pre-construction surveys that would identify and further mitigate any unforeseen impacts at that time. Nonetheless, given the amount of time that could pass between the approval and construction, if the commission did desire, they could direct staff to incorporate habitat assessments and rare plant surveys into the existing pre-construction mitigation measures in the final MND for those species identified in the CDFW letter. All noticing as required was completed. That included mailing to a 1,000-foot radius, an advertisement in the newspaper, and 2 signs posted on site. Since posting of the agenda, staff has received 30 additional comment letters, which have been provided to the commission. With that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt Resolution P2603, adopting the MND and approving Master Case 21036 and its associated entitlements, subject to the draft conditions of approval. That concludes my comments. I am available for questions, and the applicant is also here with a presentation.
Thank you, Erica. Before we open public comment portion of the hearing, any questions from the commissioners for staff?
I just have a couple really quick questions. On A and B Street, is there street parking allowed? Do you know if there's public parking on the street? No?
There- Thank you for the question, Commissioner Werner. There is not street parking on A Street, and as currently designed, there is not parking on B Street. Given the grade of B Street and curvature, not all areas of B Street would be suitable for parking, but it's certainly something we could look at through the construction permitting process to allow parking where it made sense.
Okay, and then one other quick question. I thought in one of the earlier slides you said that there was a right, you were able to left into the project, but then when you were showing the lanes, you only showed the right turn pocket. Is there a dedicated left turn pocket as well, or into the project?
Yes, there will be a dedicated left turn here into the project.
Okay, that's all.
Anyone else? You asked mine on the left turn. That was one. I do have one additional question right now, Erica. In the lower part, the open space where it looks like a pathway, we looked at the basin that was, I couldn't tell from the landscaping. Are there lights down there on the pathway, or will it have hours of operation, or is it just a pathway with landscaping down there?
It's currently just proposed as landscaping. There is not a proposal for any light fixtures.
Okay. Thank you. Rachel, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing and begin the public comments. Once the hearing is opened, I'm going to call the applicant to come up first. You will have 15 minutes to present this case. So could I please have Steve Hunter come up?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Steve Hunter. I'm with Land Design Consultants. We are consulting land planners and engineers for the applicant. I want to thank staff for their presentation because she certainly covered just about everything that I was going to cover. So I think my presentation will be shorter than I thought. But as we proceed here, the first exhibit here, as staff has indicated, we're basically showing where the three components of the project are. Lot 1 is the hotel, parcel 2 is the senior assisted living, and parcel 3 is the 73 senior townhomes. Parcel 4 is the open space parcel. And to address the B Street, which is being constructed as a private street, and Fire Lane is being constructed as a full street, 58-foot wide parkway, 34 feet curb to curb. It is designed that parking could be allowed if we wanted to park on the street, but the intent was that we're over-parking the other elements of the site, hopefully not having to use the street for additional street parking. Exhibit 2, which staff had indicated, again, the areas of landscaping, just want to point out that the areas of landscaping in there occupy almost 12 acres of the site. That's going to be heavily landscaped with trees, irrigation, an additional 5.25 acres of open space. Those two elements alone occupy 60% of the site. As staff had indicated, our intent is that although it is a senior facility for the assisted living, it is level 1, level 2. So the idea is to make it walkable community for the two senior elements, all leading down to the open space park, which is about a 1-acre park. Underneath the 1-acre park is the stormwater detention facility. Again, as staff had shown the perspective elevation of the site, it is 60 rooms. One of the things on this particular site, we started out the project with a 100-room proposal. After we did marketing analysis, discussions with the film industry, several of the large filming sites within the area. I think we all know who they are: Disney, Sable Ranch, Melody Ranch. What their needs would be to provide such a facility that would be used. We reduced it to 60 rooms and then added the banquet facilities on the fourth room. So there was a lot of analysis study going into what we provide here for the hotel. In addition, there's also a fitness center, which is located in here as well. Again, in this exhibit, we're showing, as staff had indicated, where the location of the hotel is. The nearest residential structure to the hotel is 174 feet. As you can see in this area, to the nearest residential fourplex building is 174 feet. Those side slopes are, as you've seen in the previous exhibit, is heavily landscaped. In addition to the exterior landscaping around the individual pads, each one of the lots has additional landscaping of 7/10 of an acre of additional trees and landscaping within the parking area to soften the look. As staff has indicated, the parking area here is below Golden Valley Road. The other portions of the hotel along Sierra Highway at the intersections are basically, as staff has indicated, at grade. Again, with the assisted living facility here, in between each one of the four-store buildings, as staff also indicated, there is a lot of activity use in between the buildings, outdoor seating, outdoor reading. So there's quite a bit in the front of the building for use of the residents within the facility, including the space in the back. Also indicating here, we're showing some grades showing that the facility is mostly below B Street. We tried to exclude this facility. It's one of the largest massing of buildings. So we put in location of the site that would have minimal visual view from either Golden Valley or from Sierra Highway. Again, here we're just showing the interior landscaping. Again, there's an additional 7/10 of an acres of landscaping and trees to soften the parking lot. We have the water feature in the middle and the recreational additional use for the residents of the assisted living in the back. Again, on B Street, we're proposing on one side a meandering landscape walkway. Both of these areas would lead down to the open space area, allowing the residents of both facilities to utilize a walkable. Although the roadway is a little steep, but on level one, it shouldn't be an issue. Again, here we're showing the 55 plus condominium community. Again, what we're trying to show here is that the setbacks along the easterly property line range between 36 and 40 feet. There's going to be, in the landscaping component, we added an additional meandering walkway in here, a lot of additional landscaping, given that the proximity to the existing homes. Staff did indicate that we are proposing, just based on input that we got, is that they didn't want a 6-foot block wall here. They wanted some kind of open fencing, but the applicants here, whatever the homeowners there would prefer, we would build for them. But the idea was to make this area from their backyards more look like a park atmosphere with walkways and additional landscaping. And then I think we spent quite a bit of time on the architecture here, and I think the architect did a fabulous job on coming up with something that's going to look really nice in that area. Again, down here, we're just showing the interior landscaping, the additional trees and components. This is 1.4 additional acres of landscaping within this community. Again, we're showing this, a 1-acre passive walkway. I think the question came up about lighting. As part of the landscape component, there would be not overhead lighting, but just trail and walkway lighting. It's not proposed to be open after dark, but during dusk, and there's seniors walking out here. We are also proposing to put shade structures and benches out here. DG trails, to try to replant some of the areas, more of it look like a meadow. It's more of the native vegetation out here, but then again, a use for the senior community. Yeah, this is the area between the residents, the existing residents to the east and us. The idea here is to do additional landscaping, a much better component in there, again, to make it look like a park setting than just a walkway in between two communities. Again, we're just showing what the setback is between the property line, the buildings, and the setback between the existing residents and the proposed buildings. Again, as staff has indicated, that although under the zoning, we were allowed to put up to 270 residential units, and we did several studies of those components. As 180 units, we were looking at 12 and 8-plex buildings, 3-story buildings, since we can go 50. The applicants decided that they wanted to be more consistent with the density of the adjacent area community. Originally, the project next door was entitled to be attached units, 3 and 4-plex buildings. I think 21 of the similar buildings were built over there, and then that developer went bankrupt, and another developer came out and finished the project. But our idea is to make this side of the development appealing. So again, staff had shown the elevations here. The architect went into a lot of detail to make this not look like a box multifamily type product. 2-story, we could have went 3-story. And again, I'm not sure, let's go backwards. From portions of the adjacent community looking up at the hotel, we tried to move the building as far southwest as we could on the lot to minimize the impact that they would feel from that. Again, you've already seen the views that staff shown here. Again, an aerial showing the type of development that circles around this proposed community, the DWP power lines on the west, the multifamily around the high school, similar densities in what we're proposing. And at this point, if the Planning Commission has any questions, I would be happy to address them.
I have one, and you addressed it. I just clarification. That's why I asked about the lights for the park, because it goes down into the neighbors, the backside of theirs, which is good to see. There won't be overhead lights that would shine in their backyard, but safety lights. Where would the park hours, is that going to be a CCNR thing? Is that going to be a sign posted?
I think that will be part of the CCNRs that will be established by the two HOAs for the two different communities there, how they want to operate it. It's not open to the public, be controlled by the HOA for HOA purposes.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we're going to call the first 3 speakers, Kylie Felix, Lori Shrout, and Chris Wilson. You can come up to the front here, and you'll each get 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kylie Felix. My academic and professional background is in environmental health and safety, and I am currently pursuing graduate studies in environmental and occupational health. I am speaking tonight regarding the proposed Golden Valley Road mixed-use project at the intersection of Sierra Highway and Golden Valley Road. I understand the need for housing and development in Santa Clarita. However, I do not believe this project has undergone an environmental review sufficient to fully evaluate its long-term impacts on traffic circulation, air quality, wildfire evacuation capacity, noise, and public safety. This intersection of Sierra Highway and Golden Valley Road already experiences substantial congestion, unsafe merging conditions, and recurring traffic backups during peak commute periods. In addition, the corridor experiences heavy queuing associated with Golden Valley High School during morning drop-off and afternoon pickup periods. The addition of a hotel, assisted living facility, and more than 70 residential units would introduce significant additional vehicle trips in an already constrained circulation network. This is not simply a matter of inconvenience, increased congestion at an already impacted intersection raises legitimate public safety concerns for students, pedestrians, and residents, as well as for emergency response access. I am particularly concerned about the project's compatibility with an active school traffic corridor. Hotels generate continuous vehicle turnover, rideshare activity, deliveries, service traffic, and unfamiliar drivers throughout the day, introducing the intensity of use adjacent to an already heavily burdened school circulation area warrants more detailed analysis than appears to have been provided. There is also substantial concern regarding wildfire evacuation capacity. Santa Clarita is a high-risk fire region, and recent California wildfires have demonstrated how quickly evacuation routes can become gridlocked under emergency conditions. Increasing density at a known bottleneck intersection raises serious life safety concerns that deserves a comprehensive environmental evaluation. This project may also create significant air quality impacts from increased traffic emissions, idling vehicles, and construction-related dust and particulate matter. These impacts are essentially important given the presence of sensitive receptors, including students, nearby residents, pedestrians, and elderly future residents of the assisted living facility. Noise impacts should also be analyzed more thoroughly. Construction activity, grading, delivery traffic, hotel operations, and increased roadway noise will have the potential to alter the character of the surrounding area and affect nearby residential uses over the long term. Most importantly, I question whether a mitigated negative declaration is appropriate for the project of this scale and location. Under the SECA, an environmental impact report should be prepared whenever substantial evidence supports a fair argument that a project may result in significant environmental impacts. Given the...
Thank you. We're going to have a lot of speakers tonight, and we can just maybe show support this way. We can't clap after everyone, or we will be here for a long time. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Lori Shrout. I'm a resident of Santa Clarita. I'm also a resident of the community directly to the east of the proposed project. I'm here to urge you to require a full environmental impact report for the proposed development. The site is not an ordinary vacant lot. It's a biological hotspot, a wildlife movement corridor connecting the Santa Clara River, San Gabriel foothills, the Angeles National Forest. In this area, we regularly observe Allen's hummingbirds, striped racer snakes, great horned owls, multiple hawk species, bobcats, coyotes, raccoons, and even large native toads. Some of these are endangered. The level of biodiversity is increasingly rare in the Santa Clarita Valley. Developing this parcel would fragment one of the last remaining east-west wildlife pathways in the region. The California Environmental Quality Act is very clear. When a project may interfere with wildlife movement or reduce habitat, an environmental impact report is required. The area is also at high wildfire risk. Golden Valley is a known evacuation bottleneck. Adding more development here increases ignition sources and evacuation load. CEQA requires analysis of evacuation feasibility, not just fire-resistant construction. We also need to consider the cumulative impacts. Bird populations are declining statewide, including species that are present here. The South Coast Air Basin remains in non-attainment for PM 2.5 and ozone. Traffic at this intersection is already strained, especially during school hours. For all of these reasons, biological resources, wildfire risk, traffic safety, air quality, and cumulative impacts, a mitigated negative declaration is not adequate. The law requires a full environmental impact report, and I hope you ask for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Well, I think they got my paper and copied it. But I want to say that was well said and well done. So I'm going to cut mine to what some of the big points that I need to make is that our development was compromised by an inadequate recompaction. A lot of the homes there are settling, cracking, and have problems. We sued the developer and won. maximum. Our biggest concern is with this removal and recompaction that they're going to put some sort of stress or compromise on an already compromised area. I haven't seen any kind of testing done with testing pits along that backside, which is a big concern. 360,000 cubic yards is just a huge amount to move and recompact. I was a hillside specialist, a contractor, and I won't tell you that I'm a building inspector, but I am, so I kind of have my fingers in all of it because I'm up in Bel Air. So that's probably one of my biggest concerns right now is what's going to happen, and has the proper geology been done to that degree to ensure that we have that kind of consideration looked at so that we don't continue to either exacerbate the problem or any of that. So I really believe that that's probably, other than what they said, the biggest issue. So,
Okay. Thank you. Next three speakers, Adam Runn, Courtney Sonnenberg, and Chase Presidio.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Adam Runn, and I've lived at 26375 Piazza di Saro, right on the corner. That'll be facing the development for the past 7 years. I'm speaking tonight because this project will destroy important wildlife habitat in our backyard. I personally recorded and sent to the Commission ahead of time video and photos of protected species, and specifically a great horned owl roosting in the area. And many other species, raptors, hummingbirds, bats, mammals. The use of these slopes and the drainages as a critical corridor connecting that Santa Clara River to the Angeles foothills, forest foothills. And many of these, again, are protected under California state law, specifically the Fish and Game Code, sections 3503 and 3503.5. So building this 4-story hotel, assisted living facility, and these townhomes will definitely remove this habitat. It'll add constant lighting and noise and cut off the wildlife movement, as has been previously stated. So I also strongly believe that an MND is not enough, and we are simply asking to require a full environmental impact report so that these significant impacts to wildlife and our community are properly studied before any big decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Courtney, and I live in the Valle de Sora area. So I just want to say first, from a traffic and circulation standpoint, this corridor already experiences peak congestions, which has been mentioned, from commuter, school, and regional traffic. The additional of a hotel, assistant living facility, and residential component introduces a continuous 24-hour clock generator. My concern is not only volume, but circulation conflict points, access design, and potential spillover into surrounding residential streets during peak and emergency conditions. Second, I have serious concerns regarding emergency access and evacuations resilience, given the project's location within a region where wildfire evacuation and congestion during emergency is a known planning consideration. An additional density in the area must be evaluated not only under normal conditions, but under peak evacuation scenarios. Third, the proposal includes multiple 4-story structures directly adjacent to established single-family residential neighborhoods. My concern is the lack of clear transitional buffer between the level of intensity and existing residential uses. This raises issues of massing privacy intrusion, lighting spillover, and overall neighborhood compatibility under the city's general plan principles of scale transition. And fourth, the project includes a substantial amount of grading activity, 360,000 cubic yards, which raises concerns regarding the site's disturbance, drainage, dust, construction impacts, and long-term environmental effects of the adjacent properties. And finally, I would request evaluation of the biological and environmental impacts, including habitat disturbance, lighting impacts on wildlife movement, and effects on native species that utilize the nearby open space. In our area, we have coyotes, bobcats, owls, hawks, lizards. As I was going down Golden Valley today, there was a dead bobcat, just to show you, and there's one in pollinators and hummingbirds and these wonderful creatures that help our ecosystem. And sometimes we are also concerned about just placement of people, But those things help us have food. Without bees, without hummingbirds, you don't have fruit trees, you don't have a garden. So based on these factors, I respectfully ask the Commission to consider whether the project as currently designed requires substantial modification to ensure compatibility, particularly along the residential edge, including revised height transitions, strengthening buffering, improved circulation design, and enhanced mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chase Preciado. I'm a paralegal with the law firm Lozo Jury. Here on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER respectfully requests that you deny approval of the Golden Valley Road mixed-use project and prepare an EIR to adequately address and mitigate the project's significant impacts on air quality, greenhouse gases, indoor air quality, and vehicle miles traveled. CEQA requires the preparation of an EIR as opposed to an MND when there is substantial evidence supporting a fair argument that a project may result in significant environmental impacts. Even if there is a disagreement among experts over the significance of an effect, a lead agency is to treat the impact as significant and prepare an EIR. First, there is a fair argument that the project may have a significant impact on air quality. The project's air quality impact emissions were underestimated because the values put into the emissions estimator model were inconsistent with the information provided in the MND. Second, when comparing the MND's estimated greenhouse gas emissions with the South Coast 2035 service population efficiency targets, our experts found that the project exceeds this threshold by 3.3 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. Third, this project could expose future residents and workers to indoor air quality hazards, including formaldehyde levels associated with cancer risks far exceeding CEQA's 10 in a million threshold. Lastly, the project's own VMT analysis admits that the employment component would generate VMT above the city's significance threshold. Despite this finding, the MND dismisses this impact without adequate evidence. Thus, for these reasons and those in SAFER's written comments, SAFER respectfully asks that an EIR be created for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three speakers, Antonia de Guza, Leslie Isordia, and Eric Dudlin.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Leslie Isordia. I'm currently Vice President of Valle de Oro. I bought my house in 2014. Paid $30,000 more, not only for a bigger lot, but also for a view, which I love, by the way. I'm just going to piggyback off what everybody said. My biggest concern is that my house and so many of the houses, including the common areas, have a lot of cracks. In 2016, I ended up suing Williams Homes. We settled out of court. Getting the soil samples from geokinetics was really tough. I had to pay for everything out of my pocket. We finally settled out of court, and to my dismay, I had to redo my backyard all over again, redo a lot of the piping just because it was not graded properly. $100,000 later. My come from is that if you should build, I have no idea what's going to happen to my home and everybody else's for that matter. In addition to like all the beautiful wildlife. I'm standing here being really emotional because that is my home and everybody else. And as it is, seeing cracks all the time, not just in my home, but my neighbors and then in common areas, feeling defeated at times, thinking how much more out of pocket do I have to continuously pay? Don't even want to sell because it would be unethical to disclose that. So I've been there fighting the good fight along with everybody else. You should also see the corner of Sierra and Golden, the high school. It is a traffic jam. I invite each and every one of you for a whole week to go during school hours, rush hours. You get all of this traffic from Palmdale, Lancaster, people commuting to the Valley or to LA that go through Sierra, and it's just a cluster. But at the end of the day, this is our home. And so I respectfully ask you to deny the project. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
My name is Antonina de Grosa. You could call me Tony. I live in the next complex near near Leslie's house. And my main concern is the safety. And the safety definitely does not seem to meet my requirements. What I mean is that our house is being impacted by the movement in the earth. Whoever built it did not properly make sure that things would stay the way they are. And our patio is moving away from my house. I had a beautiful patio that I paid extra for, a house that I paid extra for, and now I can't even sit in my patio and enjoy the outdoors or even have a cup of coffee without worrying what's going to happen to the patio, and will it take the house with it or what? So you are building in an area. I looked at your property once. I walked down, and it's a precipice. It's not a nice, safe, level kind of territory. It is like it's just a precipice, and to make it safe, I don't know how much you have to put there and how you're going to reinforce it. It goes from here to there, and what is going to happen to their houses as well as ours? You know, it's a real consideration. This is California. There are earthquakes, and the ground shifts. How are you going to protect all these people you're putting in that area? You know, one entrance for that many people. And also, just on a personal level, I moved there because I wanted more of a country-like green environment. And this definitely does not meet that requirement. It makes me want to leave. And I love the area. I love being part of this area. And I no longer feel that I'm going to have the environment that I paid so much for to have. I'm going to have lots of traffic, you know, bobcats, all these animals that we see. We enjoy them. We enjoy our birds, you know. I want country life. I don't want a commercial development. I feel that this is a big area. You have tons and tons of territory that you don't have to build up to be able to build on it. You know, they have more level land. I've even seen cutting down hills to build. I can understand that. But filling in is not reliable. Like I said, in my house, it has okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me. I feel a little unprepared. I don't have anything written. I'll just try and say what comes to mind. I live right around the corner in one of the communities that this is going to butt up to, and it's all restated. But the traffic, if none of you folks live near there, I'd love for you to, as other folks have said, go by it in the morning and or an afternoon when school is going. And I used to dread going there when my children went to Golden Valley High School. Thankfully, they don't anymore. And it's a nightmare. And I drove around there yesterday going down towards Walmart. And this was before school was out. And I just saw a couple packs of kids just walking along the sidewalk where they're going to be fighting, if you will, cars coming in and out, or the cars are going to be fighting the kids. But wait for the morning or the afternoon when there's just tons and tons, hundreds of children, and or the cars. If I had to estimate, I would estimate in the morning, the rare times I have to leave in the morning from Robert E. or C, whatever, Lee down Golden Valley, down Sierra Highway, you're probably talking a third of a mile, half a mile of traffic, just bumper to bumper cars. Add another traffic pattern is, I think the gal said it's going to turn left into there or right and make the U-turn, which will probably slow down that intersection next. I would say the fire hazard comes to mind because in November of '24, on the same same side of the street, but across the street, there was a fire. Then it jumped to this location, and they put it out, but there was, from where I could view and take photos, pretty big fire response with helicopters and fire personnel. And if I'm not mistaken, from what I read yesterday, fire seems to be in a lot around here with Palisades and Altadena in the last year and a half. If I read correctly, this new fire strain or spark or something that started a day or two ago in Simi Valley, if I read it, the opening sentence or something, that was started by a bulldozer or a tractor sparking, hitting something and igniting. And yeah, I'm all over the place, but just restating stuff. So that would concern me, as many of these folks have said. I have photos on my phone as well, or on my computer from a regular camera. I have photos of the ducks, coyotes, bobcats, a lot of the owls, all the wildlife, and just that traffic and the potential for accidents. Drive through that intersection any weekend and just see all the debris that must fall off trucks and cars and this and that. I stop and pick it up when I can. I think I woke up about 4 weeks ago to What's Up SCV Instagram, and there was looked like a very bad traffic accident. They were diverting. You couldn't even turn left to go to the freeway, or I don't think you could go straight on Sierra towards Plaza Rita. So it just seems like it would, adding hundreds of residents and then dozens, if not hundreds of employees amongst all the facilities, would just really be, a nightmare. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Next three speakers, Fawn Testava Rubiro, Hugo Acevedo, and Cynthia Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Fawn Testa Ribeiro. I'm a resident of Santa Clarita. I live near the proposed development at Golden Valley Road and Sierra Highway. While I have concerns about the location of this development as a whole, my primary objection is the hotel. A 60-room, 4-story commercial hotel does not belong at this location. My husband and I moved here about a year and a half ago. This is our first home. The reason we chose this specific part of Santa Clarita was because of its natural beauty, its open space, and the quieter pace of life. That is what I'm here to advocate for. From my neighborhood, I have a beautiful view of those hills and the wildlife that inhabits them. I drive Golden Valley Road and Sierra Highway every day. This project doesn't just affect the community in the abstract. It affects my home, my neighbors, and our quality of life. People purchased homes and put roots here because of the open space, the quiet neighborhoods, and the natural beauty that surrounds us. This development puts all of that at risk. This intersection already sees significant traffic. A hotel here means even more congestion, more noise, and added light pollution in an area that is fighting to hold on to its quiet residential feel and natural beauty. A hotel at this intersection is not compatible with this landscape or this community. Once you approve it, you don't get it back. This intersection sits at the doorstep of a precious open space, trails, wildlife, and panoramic views that residents treasure. 4 stories. In an area of primarily 1- and 2-story homes, single-story businesses, and restaurants, this hotel would be the tallest structure in the immediate vicinity, completely out of scale with everything around it. There are parts of Santa Clarita where a hotel makes sense. This is not one of them. This is a place where residents walk and bike along Golden Valley Road every day, and their children walk to school. They should not have to navigate past and through a hotel parking lot. Right now, when I walk along Golden Valley Road, I pass my neighbors. If this project is approved, I'll be passing visitors and strangers. We didn't choose this part of town to live next to something like this. This tears at the fabric of a community that was built on knowing your neighbor. My husband and I invested in this community. Our neighbors invested in this community. I'd ask this commission to weigh that long-term investment against the short-term convenience of overnight visitors. I'm not asking you to stop growth. I'm asking you to be intentional about how it grows. The people of this community chose this place for a reason. I'm asking you to choose them back. I respectfully ask that this commission deny the project as proposed, or at a minimum, require a substantial redesign that removes this hotel. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is a beautiful development, but this is not the place for it. There's plenty of other land to be used for this. I want to second what every one of these speakers has said. They are speaking the truth. I've hiked in this area. There is a lot of wildlife. It is not the place to put a bunch of dirt and start building on. There is also an oil field across the way from there. And I don't know if you all know what subsidence is. I know a city planner or an environmentalist would know exactly what subsidence is. Subsidence happens when you're pulling oil out of the ground, which could explain why those homes have cracks and the ground is sinking. It happens. It's a real thing. The other thing is water resources, electric grid. You know, all of these things, we already have these problems here in Santa Clarita. The Skyline community has experienced significant electrical outages because of overdevelopment and lack of resource. Okay, this is not something, and also this is a beautiful place to live. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and it's getting noisier. And it does disrupt the homeowners there. We do have a lot of wildlife, beautiful wildlife, just like everyone said. This will disrupt that. There's coyotes and creatures living back there that are now not going to have a place to live. So I respectfully ask that the city council or the planning commission rethink this. There's plenty of, tons of land just down the street. Use it. It won't affect anybody. There is not parking on these streets. So anyone who says, you know, people are going to park in the parking lots for the hotel, they're going to take the streets before they have to do that. There's no parking there. Already residents are forced to park on the street because they cannot park in the garages or in their driveways. This is their safe space to park. So what's going to happen to them? Again, please take note of what everybody is saying here. It's true. This is not the spot for this. Not even the senior living community, not any of it. We need to preserve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Commission and Chairperson. I'm a resident at the community of Valle de Oro, which would be immediately east of this proposed site. And they showed beautiful pictures of what it could be. It's just not to scale. It doesn't show the incredible mess that already exists. I challenge anybody to go pass by between the hours of 8 and 8:30 in the morning and between 3 and 4 o'clock. It's impossible to go up and down that hill. And then you're going to introduce an additional 400 cars to that location, jamming it between a high school and that existing community already. It's going to be a catastrophe. I'm a sheriff, and it's already hard enough to drive up and down that street for emergency services. Think about introducing another 400 cars there. It's going to be a complete bigger mess. Okay, it took me 20 minutes around 3:30 p.m. today to go from the next westernmost light, which is Center Point Drive, to get to the corner of Sierra. Okay, and that's without introducing all these cars. Every day, kids walk from the high school down to the corner to take the bus, and they use that exact path. It's a very peaceful path. It's a very protected path. They walk peacefully without a care in the world. Parents are comfortable watching their kids walk up and down that path. Their residents are walking up and down that path, running, bicyclists. You're talking about one entrance and one exit from that facility right smack in the middle of where all this activity happens. And that's going to be very dangerous for all the kids that are walking comfortably. All the parents are now going to be worried about, oh, is my kid going to get hit by a car? Somebody not paying attention? You're talking about cars turning left into there now too. Yeah, I don't think this was planned out very well. It's easy to show zoning pictures, grids, and proposed structures, but unless you see it in real time and to scale with the current facilities that are already there, you're not going to get even a remote idea of the impact that this project is going to have on the community and the residents. Well, one of the things that I love about my community is the hill that's right next to that community. That's not going to be a hill anymore. It's going to be a hotel and multiple story residences, what privacy are we going to have? Am I going to be able to have a barbecue in my backyard without seeing people peering over their balconies or over their windows? That's the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I invested in that property and that the community invested, to have that to be taken away, with this type of development. It needs more analysis, and they should show real-time pictures, not at whatever pictures they showed on the street, because that's not accurate at all. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next three speakers, Jane McPherson, Elizabeth Thomas, and Don Miso.
Hi guys, my name is Dawn Misso. I'm from the first generation who lived in the housing tract in Villa Princesa across from Sierra Highway. 60 years ago, I moved in. Before this was Santa Clarita. We have seen many land movements, starting with the earthquakes in the 70s, multiple springs that popped up everywhere in our neighborhood that affected the streets of Whispering Leaves, Lark Haven, Fairgate, Abdale, and many more streets. At the top of Lark Haven, where we were, 3 houses had to be moved and taken to Placerita Canyon, rebuilt there. Not only did we have earthquakes to deal with, but that was right around the time where they built the 14 freeway right next to us. They started filling in the canyon, and it was a canyon. It was not a mountain, it was a canyon. They started filling in that canyon with filtered dirt. And that dirt put pressure on underground springs that supposedly, that's popped up. We had a geyser starting across the street out in the, and draining all the way down the Lark Haven to Whispering Leaves. Some of that filtered dirt was lowered to a level and pushed back more, and that's why you can see there's land in between. There's a buffer shoulder between that freeway and the end of Lark Haven. Later on in Villa Princesa, the community tried to stop the building of the strip mall up there, Target and Lowe's, as at the top of Golden Valley. It wasn't soon after they built Target that the back wall disconnected to the building. I'm hoping you guys know why, right? For a year and a half that I've been working at Lowe's, the water main has broken 3 times because of land movement. And I know you're not building a freeway there. I just want you guys to realize that, we voted for you guys to protect our town here. What happens is we need to pay attention to these problems that around this neighborhood that is built. I know that the historical, the Indians called the mountains on Golden Valley the walking mountains, and there was a reason why they didn't want to live there. We just need to take consideration of what happened in the past so that we don't keep doing this in the future. You can look at the other side of the Soledad Canyon on the other side of Rainbow Glen, and those houses fell down too. Or, they have slippage too.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Thomas, and I bought my home in the Milestone community in 2019. Ditto on everything that everyone has said opposing this project. I personally like to wake up in the morning and go out to my garden because I feel like Snow White with all the hummingbirds and all the other wildlife animals that come up when I'm outside. So I do enjoy that part. But my main focus, I am an advocate for children's safety. And so what I would like to just focus in on is we have a school with a lot of kids. So aside from the traffic, I do actually, yes, invite all of you to come and see what that is like, but also what these children are also doing, the unsupervised children, walking through the communities, walking through the backside of Milestone community, and some of the things that they've done. So I can tell you right now, it's going to cause a lot of friction. So I stand firmly against building a hotel near our school, because schools should be places where children feel safe, focused, and protected. A hotel brings a constant flow of unfamiliar visitors, short-term guests, rideshare traffic, deliveries, and people coming and going at all hours of the day and night. Unlike a neighborhood where people know each other and have long-term ties to the community, hotels create a revolving door of strangers around an area centered on children. This is not about judging individuals. It's about recognizing that a school environment should prioritize student safety and stability. Parents should not have to worry about increased traffic, congestion, distractions, and the impact of heavy commercial activity directly next to where their children learn every day. Once this is built, the character of our school community changes permanently. Our children deserve an environment designed around education and safety, not reshaped around commercial development. We need to advocate. We need more people advocating for children. And if I've said this to multiple people, if you want to build something, let's bring in a children's hospital for kids here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Let's change it up. And yes, there's a lot of land, empty lots, where you guys can take this project, because it is beautiful. I mean, on screen here, but it's going to affect a lot of people. And I am also one of the homeowners. My home is cracking, and so is all pieces of my backyard. So there's a lot of issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi. My name's Jane McPherson. I've lived in Scenic Hills for 12 years. While economic growth and senior housing are valuable objectives, they cannot come at the expense of fundamental public safety and sound urban planning. The proposal in place to place a high-density commercial hotel and multi-tiered senior living complex inside 5 established quiet residential communities with severely restricted access in a high fire zone is a logistic impossibility that poses an imminent threat to life safety. We urge the Commission to deny the necessary project approvals based on 3 insurmountable pillars: inadequate emergency evacuation, severe land use incompatibility, and irresponsible infrastructure straining. The project site is located within a designated high fire zone. By definition, this classification demands enhanced egress and ingress flexibility. This proposal offers the exact opposite. Relying on a single exit point for a commercial hotel, an assisted living facility, and dozens of townhomes is a hazardous design flaw. Restricting traffic to right turns only. I just heard today there's a left, but you're really not going to be able to turn left with the traffic. Means that during a fast-moving wildfire, hundreds of fleeing vehicles, arriving emergency apparatus, hotel guests unfamiliar with the area, and senior residents with mobility limitations will be forced to a single unidirectional choking point. An assisted living facility houses the highly vulnerable population requiring specialized medical transport, ambulances, and staff assistance during an evacuation, forcing emergency vehicles to navigate a single restrictive right inlet while a mass evacuation is attempting to exit via the exact same point is a recipe for gridlock. Twice last year, there was a fire on the hill across the street. If that hill was to burn, it would completely shut down any exit you had to that development. Zoning laws exist to provide predictable project property values and ensure harmonious transitions between different intensities of land use. placing a 60-room commercial hotel smack in the middle of 5 quiet residential neighborhoods violates the core spirit of the general plan. A hotel brings constant turnover, rideshare traffic, delivery box trucks, and commercial waste management into the streets. It fundamentally, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Nicole Stark. And while she makes her way up here, Rachel, do we have any additional speakers? Okay.
Hi, my name is Nicole Stark, and I'm so proud of all of my community. This just made me extremely proud because people are passionate about this particular project because we love where we live. I'm not going to reiterate all of the things about that you've heard earlier, but I am concerned about the loss, the fact that this is something that we won't be able to turn back the clock on. I'm concerned about the effect on our taxes, on water usage. We've been hearing about the importance of irrigation in this project and water features. We've gone through water rationing for our own patio gardens. So thinking about the draw that will be, the noise, the light pollution, and the impact on all of us in this community. I live in the basin, and we had, with the construction that we had with the single-family homes there, was a loss of privacy that we absolutely felt so much more. Somebody mentioned sort of having a barbecue and having people look into your backyard. That's a concern. And I echo I've worked in education for the last 40 years, and it is concerning to see the access that the public would have to children. I was going by Golden Valley High School yesterday, and it wasn't high school students who were out there. There were elementary school students who were running up and down the hills with a group program that they were doing. Those children would be accessible in this way. I'm concerned also as I look at our neighbors on McBean and the loss of beauty that we've lost with the 126, which is what drew me out here. We don't get that back. And so just in terms of standing in solidarity with all of with my neighbors who have raised concerns with you, please, please, please pay attention to this. This is where we live, where we raise our families. It's a community we love. So please, I ask that you revisit this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. We had one additional written comment that had concerns, opposition to the project with concerns on traffic congestions and that the hotel will disrupt the community living. At this time, I'd like to ask the applicant, Mr. Hunter, to come back up and give him 15 minutes, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how long it is, unlimited, to respond to the comments. Mr. Hunter?
It certainly is a lot to listen to. We certainly want to take everything that we heard tonight into consideration, and we do have responses to it. I am familiar with all the developments that the community here has discussed tonight because I was the land planner and engineer that did the entitlement in Valley de Oro. I did the entitlement on the one across the street. I did the entitlement up there by the high school. So I'm familiar with all these developments. I know how all the environmental documents that went forward on all these developments, and each one of those developments as came forward, we heard similar concerns about wildlife, environmental issues. And if we took all of those into consideration, none of those communities would be here today. But saying that, don't really want to go down that path, but a lot of the things that we heard was traffic related, geology related. We looked at all those. And yes, there is traffic on Golden Valley Road and Sarah Highway. This project does not make a significant impact to that. It is a senior community. So those reports, we looked at the VTMs, we looked at level of service at these intersections. And granted, a lot of these intersections do have a lot of traffic issues. This project is only going to marginally contribute to that. It's in those reports. That doesn't take away the fact that there is traffic in the Santa Clarita Valley. As far as geotechnical, we certainly have learned a lot as all these developments in this area have been constructed. There has been movement of the land in past history. In my graduate studies in college, one of my geology courses was this very issue, and the lady was correct. This was called the Walking Mountains. This particular project, we've done exhaustive geological on it. We relied on borings that were done from when the multifamily development next to the high school was done. There was borings along here. They reviewed the Layton reports, the 2006 report on the adjacent development. All that was taken into consideration when this project was designed. So when this project's built, it will not have any impacts on the adjacent. Actually, on some of the adjacent, where it was identified deep-seated clay layers and a landslide in Valley de Oro, this project in that northwest corner is going to help mitigate that issue and make this site stable. So we've looked into that extensively. As far as habitat wildlife movement, the biological reports identified this is not a site identified as habitat wildlife movement. That was ended when Golden Valley Road was constructed and those areas were brought in. Any part of wildlife movement within this development has left natural. All the tributaries on this site have been left in the natural condition. Any wildlife that will be moving through, that's why we're proposing pedestrian bridges over those tributaries into the open space areas, leaving all the natural tributaries and watercourse in its natural state. As we said earlier, we could have developed in those areas. We developed this project at the low threshold of what's allowed under the zoning, actually below those low thresholds. So the development of this site could have been a lot more intense, but those areas, all the things that we talked about tonight, this project has addressed. When we talk about the architecture, that is the development that's going to be built here. The applicant spent a tremendous amount of time designing those buildings. Those are not just artwork. Those buildings have been designed. Elevations have been crafted over a year period of time working with staff. So that is the type of development. As far as the hotel goes, I don't necessarily see the hotel as a safety issue. It's going to be an upscale hotel. It's going to be an asset to the community, understanding that the community doesn't like the hotel. But as far as the Santa Clarita Valley in this area, a hotel is needed. Well, actually, we've done studies.
Let's be courteous, please. Thank you.
For a hotel, but that's an issue that we think it's appropriate. The marketing studies indicate it's appropriate. The movie industry has indicated a need for a hotel in this location. We're going to make this project as nice as we can. We want to work with the community, take into whatever safety issues. We're rebuilding the Class 1 bike lane, put whatever safety measures into traffic that we can for the students going down Golden Valley Road. Providing a very safe community that we're going to build here. We want to be a good neighbor with the community. But as far as some of the comments made, some of them are accurate, some of them are not accurate. I'm not going to get into the details of those. But we've taken wildlife, we've taken biological in consideration on this project, we've taken traffic into consideration. We developed a much lower intensity project than what the zoning and general plan allows for the area substantially. We intentionally developed two-story buildings adjacent to this two-story homes. We could have went three-story. We could have went 50 feet in those areas. We could have went 270 residential units. The applicants chose to build what was consistent to the adjacent community. Just like the prior development proposed to develop a development adjacent to Via Princesa that was going to be consistent in density, residential heights, all those things that took place many years ago when that property was proposed to be developed. We moved the hotel as far to the southwest of that as we can, away, as I mentioned. The nearest residential structure is 174 feet. We took all this stuff into consideration.
please, let's give the applicant his time. Thank you.
A lot of the individuals, the traffic, wildlife, air quality, mitigated nega deck versus EIR, all those things have been taken, staff made that determination that there was appropriate environmental document. We believe it's the appropriate environmental document. All the reports in that mitigated negative support the mitigated negative deck, support the project, and I would hope that the commission would move forward and approve it.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to commissioners to ask questions of staff or the applicant.
Turn the microphone on. Right. First question, I didn't see addressed anywhere in the document, but in the past when we've had development along Sierra Highway where the power lines are sitting up on those poles, especially right in this intersection, at times we have had applicants contribute to a, I don't know, whatever, a fund or something that provides for funding the future undergrounding of those. Sometimes we required that they be undergrounded. What consideration on this project have we talked about with power lines?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Burkhart. So this project is a little more complicated than most because I think we have different power line situations happening. So anything that has that 34 kV or lower would be underground with the project, of which there are some poles that front Sierra Highway that would be underground as part of that. There is other transmission lines that exist separate and apart that aren't serving this project that I would not anticipate that those would be underground. But certainly those lower that fall within that 34 kV are going to be undergrounded with this project.
There will be power lines undergrounded. It will have a better look than what it has now.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of comments about the appropriateness of a mitigated negative deck versus EIR. Could you just explain the process that that was gone through to do the environmental documents we have, i.e. it's a third party who does it, it's overseen by the city, not the applicant, that type of thing, to kind of, so everybody understands that it wasn't the applicant going out there and saying we didn't see any birds or something like that.
Yes, thank you for that clarification question. So the process that the city goes through, our first step when we get a development project is it defined as a project under CEQA? In this case, yes, this project is a development project that requires a CEQA review. And that first step is do an initial study in which we look at all of the impacts that CEQA identifies, or areas of analysis, that CEQA identifies, to determine is there anything here that has a significant impact, or rather, is there anything that cannot be mitigated to a less than significant impact? So in this case, the initial study indicated all the impacts could be mitigated to less than significant, and the mitigated negative deck is the appropriate document. The city does hire an environmental consultant. They peer review all of those reports that the applicant has prepared. They give comments and feedback to make sure that we have analyzed everything and have the appropriate mitigation in place to address them.
Okay. With regard to the assisted living facility, in past projects, we've heard how there is a process of operating procedures that are approved by the state. I'm not sure how that translates to different levels of assisted living communities. I'm sure there's a range of that. Some would require that amount of oversight and preparation, some would not. Does this assisted living facility going to require that level of review, operating standards, and state certification?
Yes, so it will require a state license for the assisted living facility, even at this level, and the project conditions of approval do include, similar to past projects that the commission has looked at, and requested that the emergency disaster plan that is required to be reviewed and approved by the state before occupancy, that the planning division would also be provided with that approved state emergency disaster plan.
And what I think is my last one, certainly the geology in this area. I've been doing this a long time, and I've had involvement on most of the projects that have happened out here for the last 25 years along that road. There are geological concerns, and they have been brought up many, many times. I know that the city's engineering department has not at the point of reviewing those specific plans and granting those approvals. But again, when that process occurs, and the engineering department looks at the plans, looks at the reviews, looks at the sampling, makes their requirements and recommendations and whether or not they approve those plans, I'm just wondering if there's not a condition we can place that holds this project accountable, this project development accountable for anything that would occur as a result of this project. That may be more on this side of the room.
Thank you. I think I agree, Commissioner Burkhardt. I think there's two parts of that question. Part of it I can address, and I would defer to the city attorney on part of that question. In terms of geology, at this stage of the analysis, there is a feasibility analysis that has been conducted. Public Works has looked at it also with a third-party reviewer to determine the feasibility of the development that's being proposed, to identify some of the issues that, frankly, we've heard in public comments. And given that we're aware of those issues in the past, there is a lot of data in this area to look at. So those reviewers take that all into consideration, look at that feasibility. So at this stage, we at least have done that legwork, reviewed it to understand that this could happen. Conditions of approval are further going to require during the grading and building permit process that they are going to have to submit geotechnical reports that will have recommendations that need to be complied with.
That was the part that I know has not been completed yet, once we get to that actual stage of cutting the dirt. So now for round two.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, maybe you can flesh out your question a little bit more. The reason I say that is because, of course, the conditions of approval already require the permittee to comply with applicable law. Obviously, there is nothing bulletproof in any development that moves forward. What the city can require is, which is what it's already required, is complying with applicable law, which would include grading permits, known engineering, known geotechnical, what have you. As has been discussed already, some of that knowledge evolves over time. So what we know today may not be applicable tomorrow. This is all a very long way of saying that, one, the city is already defended and indemnified pursuant to the general conditions and in the conditions of approval. Two, the applicant or the permittee would be on the hook to any subsequent homeowners if there was something that was wrong that had not been caught during the development. And I guess to three, I'm not sure what additional condition we could put in that is not already anticipated as part of the overall conditions of approval and or applicable law. So I'm happy to flesh out your thoughts.
No, I just wanted to hear, one, that there was still ongoing review that's going to be done on the technical side once we get into cutting the dirt, and that the liability and the responsibilities are clear, that if this project causes harm, the developer, the proponent of the project is responsible for harm that they could have caused, as it would be found in court.
The quick answer to that question is yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted. Okay. I think I'm done.
Lisa?
So I too wanted to know why it wasn't an EIR, given the scale of the project. I think, Erica, you kind of answered that. But I guess some of the letters that I saw, like the Fish and Game letter, they said that there was no mention of mitigation for these western burrowing owls and that they're protected and other animals. So they had said they want more time on doing that. So I wasn't sure on that. It sounds like they had mentioned that no mitigation was done to reduce certain of these plant species and animal species below significant thresholds. So that confused me a little bit why that wasn't there. That's my first question.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichmann. So I'm happy to walk through that. I think if the commission desires, we could certainly incorporate into the final MND some of that recommended language from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. We did do studies specifically ruled out some of these species that Fish and Wildlife says the potential does exist. And so in walking through the recommendations that were provided, I would suggest the commission consider incorporating recommendations for protocol surveys for Crotch's bumblebee. So we have an existing mitigation measure for that we would just accept their recommendations to add to that condition. In addition, incorporate habitat assessment surveys for the burrowing owl and the western spadefoot into our pre-construction survey requirement. Incorporate a survey for the gnatcatcher, and then incorporate also a survey for the rare plant species into those pre-construction surveys that they recommended. So that would address each of those species there.
I would like to recommend that we do that. Of course, I lose my voice every time I have to speak when I come here. So I would like to ask my commissioners when we go through this to put that in, because I think that's important. Then I noticed on another one of the letters, I think from Adam Rund, but was there the slope stability analysis? Is that the feasibility analysis that we talked about? Is that the same thing? Because he had mentioned because of the problems that they're having at this other development, was that done with this?
Yes, thank you. So we look at it, we call it a geotechnical feasibility study. So yeah, so that has been done at this point.
Okay. And then what is being done for the residents behind the project for dust and noise mediation? I read some of them are only 14 feet away when this is getting constructed. That sounds kind of horrible.
So during the project construction, specifically the earthwork that is happening, there are best management practices that are required by the project conditions. That's typical with every project to mitigate for dust and other things that they would have to comply with.
Because that's super close. That's probably closer than I've seen a lot. So we just have to look at the standard, whatever they do for everybody. There's nothing special to do when it's that close, because that seems really disruptive. I don't know, I didn't go out there. I'm mad that I didn't go out there because I can't picture where this is, but. Okay, don't yell at me because I admitted I didn't go out there, because I'm just telling you, it's hard to visualize, but thank you.
Yes, so the BMPs, the BMPs are intended to mitigate. Proximity isn't necessarily, the property lines could be adjacent, and they're intended to account for that.
Okay. And then I'm a stickler on the emergency access. I know they mentioned that there was a fire on one of the other developments, and I did ask for two exits on that, and there was a fire, and it was hard for them to get out. This, again, it just doesn't seem right to only have one emergency access. I can't really see from the pictures where the fire, maybe you could pull that up, how fire department can get in. Can they get around to the other side? The senior housing is pretty far away, and then we have to deal with assisted living where they need help and things like that. That looks like a big old mess if there's a fire.
So
and there will be a fire.
Part of the project review does require the fire department, LA County Fire Department, their land development unit does review our projects for access specifically. And in this case, that one point of access meets their requirement for the development. I'll also say LA County Fire is also looking at the project Because it's in a high fire zone, they have additional fuel modification requirements. That deals with all the landscaping, distance of plant material from structures, et cetera. And then they also have requirements for building code, current fire code that they have to meet. This development does require fire sprinklers. So all of that is looked at by fire for access and to address those concerns.
It still doesn't help that there should be two I mean, it really just doesn't make sense. The sheriff letter says that they are requesting more than one exit point. So it just is very confusing to me why the fire department keeps saying, oh, we can do this. And then we have a fire. And I mean, you look at what happened in Sand Canyon, hour and a half to get out of projects. We've seen this happen right up the hill. There was a fire and people couldn't get out very well. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think that these things could be done better because, you know, that's a safety concern and there already is tons of traffic up there. So I just wonder if there's a way that can be looked at that we could have. And I ask my commissioners to help with that because I think it's a safety issue, especially with the assisted living and how far away the senior housing is to get out. I also didn't know, was there a traffic study done due to questions with Golden Valley High and the traffic and everything and people are talking about the left turn lane to get in. They're never going to be able to make the left turn because of the traffic. We're hearing horrible accidents and deaths on Golden Valley all the time. So just adding all of this just seems like maybe we could do better with all of this.
Yes, thank you. A traffic analysis was prepared for the project that included level of service analysis specifically at that intersection. And the project, the additional trips from the project don't impact that or change the operation level of the intersection. That said, our traffic division has reviewed it, understanding the circulation in that area. That is why the right-hand turn pocket along the project frontage is being required to ensure that any cars that are trying to enter this site are moving out of through lanes and have the space to do that safely and not cause an impact.
And then I always ask for this, I'm probably sure it's yes, but all construction equipment will be maintained on the site. So trips will be going off-site will be limited during commuting time.
This is correct. The conditions of approval do require that all the construction traffic or trucks are on site. And the hours of construction for that heavy earthwork have also been further limited, consistent with what the commission has requested before.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'm just going to say thank you, Commissioner Eichmann and Commissioner Burkhart, for addressing all of the questions and comments that I had on my list, so I don't have to ask them. Thank you.
You did good.
Commissioner Fena?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, on the construction hours, I actually saw in the conditions, can you confirm it? I think it starts at 7, and I think we moved it back to 8 in past project reviews. So I just wanted, can you confirm that comment, that it's consistent with what we've asked for on others?
The current condition lists the hours 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., so the limitation, it shortened it in the evening.
Oh, the evening. It was 7 to 7.
So it's typically 7 to 7. These conditions are currently 7 to 5.
But we can change that, too.
So just food for thought, because I thought we had debated before about maybe potentially a later start if you were,
It just makes it take longer and
more
more
days.
annoying, but yeah.
Understood. I did want to ask, just in the preparation of the MND and the process that you guys go through, are there any time limitations on how old some of this stuff can be? I note that the two oldest studies in the MND are the original Oak Tree report and then the traffic analysis, both over 5 years old. And the Oak Tree report was updated since, and I was just curious why the traffic or any of the other reports wouldn't be updated as.
Yes, so typically, as we approach an M&D, we have the reports in our writing sections. In this case, I think the applicant was delayed in making some revisions on some of the things that were requested. And that is why you see the variation in the.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like it's been in process. I mean, I think it's something that should be considered. You know, the traffic analysis was done in 2021, while I believe Golden Valley High School was reopened by that point. Traffic's definitely different.
Very different now.
Very different today than it was during kind of prime 2020, 2021 during COVID. And I think that's a huge part of what you've heard tonight. So something worth considering if that should be required to be updated. Trying to think, I did see that there was an extensive geological study done that does note, consistent with these other projects and the feedback heard, that there's highly expansive soils. There are ways, having built in highly expansive soils, to mitigate that, but it's tough. Ultimately, there will be likely a requirement in the CCNRs for how to make sure things don't crack when you build in highly expansive soils, but a lot of that burden's on who uses that property thereafter. So I think that language should be a condition, if it's not already in there, to be included in both associations, that proper language potentially from the soils engineer, LGC Valley, as to how to properly maintain the site for expansive soil conditions.
Vice Chair Faina, Patrick Leclerc with the Planning Division, and just looking at the conditions of approval, that is referenced in EN 14 that talk about the CCNRs, and that any of the recommendations from the geologist would be required to be incorporated into the CCNRs as recommended.
So without, and I'll be honest, I didn't read both the geotech report and the response to the city comments, but I think further specific language relating to proper soil moisture best practices should be requested and included. Would be something, because it's definitely something everyone knows that there's been a lot of trouble with that there, and it's just a reality of the soil composition.
Yep.
Majorly, which was pointed out in the geotech report.
Yeah, so like Erica had mentioned, we have done the preliminary review. Our engineering team they will have the final geological report done when they're reviewing the project, and this condition specifically calls out the CCNRs must include disclosure to comply with the geologist's recommendations concerning restrictions on watering, irrigation, recommended plant types, and the such.
There you go.
And one of the other things is that the city does review both that geological study as well as the CCNRs before they're approved. So just to
that's right. So the city staff will review CCNRs before they're approved. You're right. I think it's just very important for anything that gets built there, no matter what it is.
Anything else?
I think you have a few. I'll let you go.
I do have a few. I want to echo what Commissioner Werner said about the, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Eichmann.
I know, I was like-
I'm sorry.
I got confused.
About the one route. Because traditionally we have talked about that, and I am not a fire expert, and I understand that, but I'm also not a law enforcement expert either. And now we have heard from one of those agencies that has to deal with this. And it's hard because in one sense, I know that the community by which many of the speakers came from tonight actually only has one entrance in and one entrance out. So they live in a community like that. And it was approved, and they chose to live there. In the other sense, if you go down towards Golden Valley and onto the multifamily, there's one entrance in, but they have a Knox box second entrance out down by the Golden Valley High School entrance. So we have two neighborhoods there with two different circumstances. One has one entrance in, one has an emergency exit. So it's hard as a commissioner to read this and say, well, I'm going to insert my opinion. I'm only basing it off of what the expert said. And we did have the sheriff weigh in. And I wondered if the project applicant had looked at an alternative which would have an emergency access, whether Knox box locked, not public, and if that was a possibility. Knowing that some projects don't have it, neighborhoods, and some do, some of which people live in this room.
I am not aware of the applicant seeking an alternative point of access. Our review and the way that we consult on access is through the LA County Fire Department. And so based on their recommendation, their approval of the proposed site plan, and the applicant's coordination with them, this project was designed with access to Golden Valley.
Thanks, Erica. I want to talk about the MMD a little bit, and not so much about why that was picked over an EIR document, and more about some of the things that I think could maybe clean up on it that I think could be confusing to both the reader or to maybe even the applicant themselves as they try to work through this. And particularly it has to do with the bio mitigations, which we heard from California Fish and Wildlife on anyways. And particularly on page 33, when we're talking about, and we've talked a little bit about, and I think we're going to get to it, about adding additional species to the pre-construction surveys, which I think is a good idea. And I'll give you time to turn there. It's in the initial study neg deck on page 33. I think the city staff did a great job of outlining the Crotch's bumblebee assessment and walking through doing the surveys. If a bee is not detected, nothing else needs to be done. If a bee is detected, it goes down the next pathway. And it says if a Crotch's bumblebee is found at this project site, and it says you'll implement these. And it says project timing, to the extent feasible, initial brown graking and vegetation removal activities shall be scheduled outside of the nectar. And then it gives some other things, queen flight season and colony active period. So to the extent feasible, I was wondering if we could expand on what to the extent feasible means, because it seems like it's kind of not locked down a little bit. It could go both ways.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Keith. In mitigation measures, I think you will see the same with nesting bird. It's try to avoid this season if you cannot. So similar here, it doesn't absolve you from complying. If you've detected, you still have to follow the steps. I think that is just acknowledging that potentially you may be looking at a start date that falls within those dates.
Okay, so then I guess how I read this is that they should try to avoid those start dates, but if they can't, then it's okay. They can move forward. Is that correct?
They still have to do their surveys that are outlined here. I mean, if they're discovering these things, then they would have to follow the next steps.
Perfect. Then I think what I'd like is on the pre-construction survey, which is the next paragraph, that maybe perhaps we strike some of it to make it more concrete. And I agree with you on that. This follows the next step. It says before initial ground disturbance or vegetation removal activities that would occur during the flight season or during the colony activity, then the field mod biologist goes out there. I think we should strike those precursors, and just before ground disturbance, they should do the surveys, which is what we've gotten to on all the other species. I don't think there should be a disclaimer there for those time periods, is what I'm trying to get at, if that makes sense. Thank you. And I thought the rest of it, going through and working with Fish and Wildlife, I thought was really good. And I questioned a little bit about their letter because you guys have already said that the applicant would work with them on that. So I thought that was good on city staff. It's pretty clear to me on there. I was just a little confused on the ground disturbance timelines. I'll try to make this quick. I know it's long. Another one I just want to talk about that maybe there could be some cleanup is on the bat, which is on Bio 536. It says construction activities, including demolition, grading, vegetation removal, must occur outside of the bat maternity season when it says the time frame, and it says if the bat maternity season cannot be avoided. It's hard to read when it says must be avoided and it says if it can't, and then you can continue. That, to me, that's confusing. I feel like you can strike that whole first sentence and just say a bat survey assessment should be conducted by a biologist no more than 14 days before the start of construction activities. It feels like one sentence says you must not, and then the other one says if you do it. So I think it can be cleaned up and just say a bat survey will be done before construction. And last one, I promise. I understand that the VMT came back as no significant impact, and that's part of what an MMD is. It's either no significant impact or an impact that can be mitigated, and we've talked about that tonight. And Commissioner Burkhart, I appreciate you having staff walk through, because most people don't deal with this on a daily basis, and I think that's good to understand. I was confused, though, when you look at the VMT report, and not in the mitigation, the MMD, but actually the report, which was, I think, Appendix I, it actually came out to be an impact on the employment, 0.2 over the 6.9. I'm sorry, 0.2, which was VMT per employment was 17.1, and to be 15% lower needed to be 16.9. And their own study acknowledges that. And it says, however, there was a significant impact for employment portion of the project based on VMT metric, which would mean a mitigation needs to happen to be less than significant. However, the city determined with the applicant that the employment being based there in the city is going to generate less trips on the freeway, less commuter. That was the assumption there. And I guess where I'm coming from there is it's hard to, none of us have a crystal ball, none of us can predict if that hotel is built, who's to say that those jobs are all from Santa Clarita and are therefore taking miles off the freeway. They could attract miles from other places. And so I think what would be more appropriate here is that a mitigation measure be put in place, that the applicant could do a transportation management study that would focus on mitigating those vehicle miles traveled for their employees, which would be directly related to those impacts. So for example, I can't remember exactly how many hotel employees were predicted, but it could be a rideshare program vouchers. It could be bus passes, which would allow people to take public transportation for the jobs on those sites, which reduces vehicle miles traveled. So I would ask that the applicant consider adding that as a mitigation for VMT, which would, we're talking about 0.2, helping those vehicle miles traveled for those employees would get them to less than significant through actual mitigation. So those would be my deep dive CEQA analysis. Sorry.
Wasn't there an error in that table?
Yes.
That she brought up? Is that?
It's just it's a clerical error that just
doesn't change the outcome.
It doesn't. It makes the table look misread, but when you just correct it, the job, it projects 66 jobs, and when you put the correct number in, 5 instead of 3, it's 66 jobs. It's consistent with the rest of the document. So that happens in a large document like this.
I was making sure I heard you correctly when you presented that. So you agree with that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that the state of California requires an employer who has more than a very low number of employees to do a transportation mitigation management plan per state requirements that they have to review. So with that, I would not be opposed to having the applicant just go ahead and do that. It's not a huge deal to do. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this project meets the threshold for having to do that for the state anyway.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just think it would directly talk to the impacts from their employees. Any other comments to staff or the applicant before I close public comment? All right. At this time, I will close public comment portion of the public hearing and allow for the commissioners to continue our discussion or maybe more refine our discussion on what we want to see done tonight. Commissioner Werner?
So just so I can get some clarification, the recommendations that Commissioner Eichmann wanted included were to include some of the mitigation comments on the Fish and Wildlife letter. And then the transportation management, which I believe Commissioner Keith brought up. And then, sorry, what other recommendations that were mentioned?
Well, we talked about secondary emergency access, suggesting that, but.
Revisiting that?
Revisiting that.
I guess the question with that would be, are we asking the applicant to look at an alternative as they move forward? Or we would have to ask them to go do that and bring it back to us? Or we recommend,
Yeah. Maybe in the meantime, we ask the applicant if they looked at that at all to begin with.
That would be a great, yeah. Mr. Hunter, if you would mind coming to maybe opine on alternatives.
When we first started the project, as staff indicated, we met and worked with LA County Fire as far as the density of the project and the single means of access. To answer your question, we did. We did look at a possible viable second access through the DWP power line easements. In 1984, the school district condemned a bunch of portions of the DWP right-of-way, so right now it is a checkerboard of ownership. If we were going with a much denser project, I would agree with the commission that a second means of access should have been looked at. But yes, we did look at it, and we looked at it. It would be very difficult to try to get the access through the power line 330-foot easement, since the ownership of it is owned by the Department of Water and Power and the school district. I don't really see that if we meet the fire code for a single means of access with the development, we meet the code. It doesn't say that given fire history in the Santa Clarita Valley, a second access is not looked at. We can provide a second access behind the hotel and make a 20-foot fire emergency access to Sarah Highway. I'm not sure that solves the problem as fire access, because you're putting all the traffic back into the same intersection. We're very limited to the amount of frontage that we have on Golden Valley and Sarah Highway. The only viable single means of a second access, 20-foot wide emergency access, would be through the power lines. And that would be very difficult to try to navigate two different ownerships between the school district and the Department of Water and Power.
So let me just ask this. It's my understanding that traffic leaving the project can only turn right onto Golden Valley.
That's correct.
So if there was a means for egress onto Sierra Highway, that would take cars that would be normally trying to get out onto Golden Valley, would put them on Sierra Highway, so that they would then be traveling eastbound at that point on Sierra. So it would relieve the congestion at the right-hand turn onto Golden Valley if you were able to provide that.
I mean, we could provide a driveway or second access onto Sarah Highway as emergency only, like I said, behind the hotel. But that's only really going to benefit the hotel people coming and going.
But that's a third of the project's capacity, and I agree. We have a code, or the fire department has a code, and if you meet the code, you meet the code. But the code is minimum.
Yep.
In every aspect. So if it's not unreasonable, I would be, if you're inclined to do that, I would be inclined to ask for it.
We would be happy to work with city staff and provide that second access or second emergency driveway. We would not want traffic coming in.
I don't either.
emergency.
I don't either. So, and of course, the traffic guys would have to bless it.
Yeah, we can provide a driveway from the hotel area onto Sierra Highway, since we match grades there anyway. If city traffic is okay with it, we're okay with it.
I think that also answers the sheriff's concern,
you go.
which directly talked about if that was blocked, accident or something, if there was something else additionally down there, they
could
couldn't,
get in
they
there
couldn't get to it, and this would allow
I
that.
like that. So I was looking at the hotel anyway to try to figure out where to do that, so I like that solution.
And just to be clear, emergency access.
Emergency,
not-
yeah.
So we have the additional species to be added into the pre-construction survey, a transportation management program that would be submitted and approved by the Public Works to reduce VMT for employees. Add a secondary emergency access that would connect to Sierra Highway. And then I guess, I don't know how to technically say this, but more of the mitigation measures that are there in the bio are fine, but a red line of them that would then proceed, if that makes sense? Is that the correct way of how that would happen? A strikeout?
In the final MND, we would correct those mitigation measures and update
Yes.
with the recommendations from CDFW.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Others from Commissioner
We're
Faina?
looking at updating.
Oh, updating the
study.
traffic study, you're right. I would like that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Important.
don't know that you could approve it. I think it would be tabling the project to update
Yep.
the study to be considered properly in the MND. Potentially, that could also consider emergency egress.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason, projects don't have to be approved in one meeting. They can,
Yeah, no, I
come back and
understand.
we can see it. And then that way we're seeing it. I know. Like 5, right?
Yeah, I think with how important the traffic aspect of this is, I think it would be a reasonable ask to update it and potentially consider the impacts of a emergency egress out onto Sierra Highway. I'm looking at the plat map. I don't know that it would fit, but I think it would be helpful to know more about that. That's a different path. That's not a condition you're adding. So
It is. No, so with that though,
We'll get that down and come back.
what I would propose then is that we would, I guess I will ask the applicant if he could come up here one more time, Mr. Hunter, based on what you just heard the commission discuss, which I want to be clear on, would be, I guess the MMD could be updated now if there was more time, just because there would be, that would be adding the species to it. We could also do the changes to the bio and then a traffic study that would look at a second emergency access to make sure it's doable, as well as just updating the general study. What I would like to do is, if we are going to go down this path, is to continue to a date certain, but that also relies on how quickly you think you could turn around really the traffic study. The mitigations are just text changes, more or less.
Probably 30 days, 45 days. There was an updated traffic study in '23. City staff asked for the '21 traffic report to be updated, so it's not as old as '21. It was updated, I believe, in '23. But we could update it again currently and also have it address the second access driveway onto Sierra Highway.
If the traffic study was just done in '23, I think that's probably current enough for me.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm just trying to confirm here, because Appendix H and I mean, if we could get a confirmation on that. The cover letter is dated December 2nd, 2021. And so maybe it followed and I missed it. I don't know, staff, if you could confirm.
I also did a second report to address if we could put a traffic signal at the intersection. So a traffic signal warrant study was also done around the same time. And I think with the warrant showed that the need for the traffic study wasn't quite there, but in working with the city staff, it's too close to the intersection of Sierra Highway In Golden Valley Road, it's only would be 450 feet away, so you really can't put signals that close together. But we're more than happy to update the traffic report on the VTMs. We'll have it look at second access onto Sarah Highway.
To continue it.
That's why I want to confirm. Are you talking about the VMTs? That's a separate appendix. That was in 23 versus the traffic analysis, which is dated 21.
21, yeah.
Correct. So in 23, there was the signal warrant and some additional VMT analysis.
But we don't have a problem updating the traffic report.
Okay.
Then again, just to walk through the list here, we'll have some cleanup in the mitigations on the MMD since we have the time now. And then we will do a traffic study, which will analyze updated from 21. And I do think there is a distinction between VMT and traffic, as well as look at a secondary emergency access. And while the transportation management program will be added as a mitigation measure, that obviously will not be tied to the next hearing. That's a long-term tied to a grading permit or something to that effect. That's not to be, analyzed now.
We could take that as a condition of approval.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Chair Keith, if I may jump in on the traffic study, I just want to make sure we're talking the same things here. What I'm understanding is that we want to update the traffic study numbers and get more current data on that. Since that emergency access gate that we're talking about will only be for emergency access, it wouldn't typically fall into the traffic study. So that's just something, if they can design to accommodate that, then they would be able to demonstrate that and bring that back. So that wouldn't be probably part of the traffic study analysis, although it would be something that would provide that additional means of access for an emergency situation to allow for traffic flow differentiation. So
separate items.
Separate items. I just want to make sure we're not looking at the traffic study and expecting to
I
see
was just
new
commenting
data
that
on that.
the traffic guys should look at it and not have a problem with it, not necessarily study it, but
Look at
Yep. Does it fit?
yeah,
Yeah, it would be very helpful to see an exhibit that, because
Yeah.
it looks pretty tight. I'd love
I'd
the
like to see it.
city to be able to formally opine, and I don't know if you have to have Caltrans look at it because it's Sierra Highway.
Yeah, so we'll have to work with our traffic team to look at it, but it is as just an access point, wouldn't be part of the traffic study, would be something that they would just design for.
You're right, we would have to deal with Caltrans, but the commercial across the street, when the city required the second access from the commercial onto Sierra Highway, Caltrans was not opposed to that driveway access. But I would assume that everything we do on Sierra Highway requires Caltrans, but I'm assuming they would have no issue with an emergency driveway.
So with what we have, the applicant has indicated 30 days or 45?
I think that we can get the traffic consultant to, the city may need some additional time to review it.
Okay.
I think that
60 days.
Traffic consultant, 30 days, he needs to go back out there, doing a level of service analysis. He's got to go out there and put monitors on the ground, monitor the traffic.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to go to a date certain when you're
We
having to
always
do
do
a
date
study.
uncertain,
Yeah.
and they'll pick it when they're ready.
We can do a date uncertain, then. I was trying to.
Yeah, I know.
I know, trying to
We
speed
did
it
that
up.
with- We
motivated.
did that with the last traffic one. They turned it around very quickly, but Needham Ranch, so.
So
Cut it, please. Public comments closed. Thank you.
So where I think this is going is potentially a continuance with some work to be done, updated traffic impact analysis, get the red line work done to the MND for the endangered species, allow the applicant time to consider an emergency egress, and get the city, get some feedback on that. I would also very much welcome a opportunity to see the property, because it is, as you stated, Lisa, a little difficult even from the visualizations, and I have.
Don't say it, because they'll get upset if you said you didn't see it.
Oh, no, I've seen the property.
have seen it.
I've seen the property before. I've been at Valle de Oro. I've spent a lot of time in the area. But I think it would be helpful to have a more formal opportunity to see it, as we have done with other complex mixed-use projects, even right around the corner from this recently.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going. So we make a motion to do all those things. So I'll motion as.
I'll second. Are you going to say it? We know what someone was
We know
taking
what
notes.
yeah. We have
They were.
I have a first and a second, Rachel, to continue the project to not a date certain.
Correct.
While the applicant works on what was discussed here. So Rachel, do we do a roll call?
Commissioner Burkhart?
Yes.
Commissioner Eichmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Verna?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fana?
Yes.
Chair Keith?
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Patrick Leclerc for the planning manager's report.
All right, good evening again, Chair Keith and members of the commission. Just as I often do, we'll just give you an update on what we're looking at, and given we're midway through the year, I know we've been working on a couple of larger projects that we expected to come a little earlier, but they're getting ready now. So we've got a couple of these projects lined up that we're looking at. So just first, for our June 16th meeting, we'll be bringing up our residential objective design standards. That's something that we're going to be bringing up for consideration, and that'll help out with our meet with some of our housing element goals. So we'll bring that up for your review. July 7th, we expect to have the Belcaro project introduction. That'll be an opportunity to review the project description again, go over the details of the project. We'll have an introduction on the EIR. It will just be at the very beginning of the EIR comment period, so there won't be enough time to have had any meaningful opportunity to review the EIR and provide comments. So we'll look to bring that back after that meeting to allow for public comments and the commissioners to review the document and be able to provide feedback to us on that. And then after hiatus, we think August 18th, we would be bringing up potentially the Princessa Crossroads project. Similarly, we would have just released the EIR. However, the EIR comment period for the other project may have closed, so we will probably have the 18th would be sort of a EIR comment period or comment meeting for Belcaro, and then introduction to Princessa Crossroads. So a lot of detail there. Sorry to be long-winded, but those are the two big projects that will sort of take us through the end of the year. And so that meeting schedule we'll try and outline for you and have that ahead for you to review. So a couple of other projects that we'll be working on that'll sort of
If you
join those
wouldn't mind taking the conversations, thank you. I'll back. Thank you. Sorry, Patrick.
No problem. Yeah, so we have a couple other projects that we're looking at that will sort of piggyback on there, but our intention is to not have those projects with heavy lifting items on the same night. So hope that helps give you an overview of what we're expecting for the latter part of the year, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any reports? I just briefly want to say, and Patrick's aware, I will not be here on June 16th. It is for a bereavement issue, so I will be out of state. So they are aware, but we'll continue to have that meeting.
I'll echo that. I had already let them know that I'm not able to attend the 16th meeting as well. I have another work commitment.
Gotta have that quorum. Rachel, do we have any speakers for public participation?
There are no further speakers.
I will take a motion for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.